that you are all here, and let's also welcome our wonderful great guests, Eileen, Tabitha and Anneli.
Anneli, I've heard that you were a bit nervous.
Yes, I'm nervous-sided. I'm really nervous-sided because you might not know this, but English is not my first language. And my characters does not sound as they sound in Swedish as they will do in English.
This is the first time you will hear Spitfire in English by her. Maybe. Okay. Is the audience excited? So our first script is from Brothers Grimm. It's The Little Red Cap, and Eileen will do the Little Red Cap voice, or act as Little Red Cap, and her voice will be Apple Bloom, and she will also do the narrator, and her voice will be Celestia. And Tabitha, you will be the wolf. And maybe I should just leave the voices there so themselves as a surprise, so I'll just tell them what characters you will play. And Tabitha will also do grandmother's voice, and Anneli will be mom and the huntsman. You can start.
Once upon a time, there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, but most of all by her grandmother. And there was nothing that she would not have given to the child. Once she gave her little cap of red velvet, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else. So she was always called Little Red Cap. One day, her mother said to her,
"Come, Little Red Cap. Here is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She's ill and weak, and they will do her good. Set out before it gets hot, and when you are going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path or your way, or you may fall and break the bottle, and then your grandmother will get nothing. And when you go into her room, don't forget to say good morning, and don't peep into every corner before you do it." "I will. Take great care."
The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a ledge from the village, and just as Little Red Cap entered the wood, a wolf met her. Red Cap did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not at all afraid of him.
"Good day, Little Red Cap."
"Thank you kindly, Wolf."
"Whither away so early, Little Red Cap?"
"To my grandmother's."
"What you got in your apron?"
"Cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day. So poor sick grandmother is to have something good to make her strong."
"Oh, where does your grandmother live, Little Red Cap?"
"A good corner of a ledge farther in the wood. Her house stands under the 3 large oak trees. The nut trees are just below. You surely must know it."
Such a tender young creature. What a nice plump mouthful she will be, better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily so as to catch them both.
So the wolf walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Cap, and then he said,
"See, Little Red Cap, how pretty are the flowers about here. Why don't you look around? I believe that you too do not hear how sweetly the birds are singing. You walk gravely along as if you was going to school, while everything out here in the woods is smelling."
Little Red Cap raised her eyes, and when she saw the sunbeams dancing here and there through the trees, and and pretty flowers growing everywhere she thought.
Suppose I take grandmother a fresh nosegay. What's a nosegay?
Okay.
That would please her too. It is so early in the day that I shall still get there in good time.
And so she ran from the path into the wood to look for flowers. And whenever she had picked one, she fancied that she saw a still prettier one farther on, and ran after it, and so got deeper and deeper into the wood. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked at the door.
Who's there?
It's little Redcap. I'm bringing the cake and wine. So open the door, okay? And I'm too weak. Cannot give up.
The wolf lifted the latch, the door sprang open, and without saying a word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in bed, and drew the curtains. Little Redcap, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many that she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother and set out on the way to her.
Oh, there! How uneasy I feel today, and at other times I like being with grandmother so much. Good morning!
Of me? But she received no answer. So she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother with her cap pulled far over her face and looking very strange.
Oh, grandmother, what big ears you take.
The better to hear your voice, my child.
Grandmother, what big eyes you have.
But it's better to see you with, my dear.
Grandmother, what large hands you have.
But these old things, they're the better to hug you with.
Oh, but grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have.
Huh? The better to eat your wrist.
And scarcely had the wolf said this, than with one bound he was out of bed and swallowed up Redcap. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, he lay down again in the bed, fell asleep, and began to snore very loud. Snore very loud. The huntsman was just passing the house and thought to himself,
How the old woman is snoring. I must just see if she wants anything.
So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw that the wolf was lying in it.
Do I find you here, you old sinner? I have long sought ya.
Then, just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother, and that she might still be saved. So he did not fire, but took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf.
Come on, let me,
When he had made 2 snips, he saw the little Redcap shining. And then he made 2 snips more, and the little girl sprang out.
How frightened as a thing! How dark it was inside the wolf!
And after that, the aged grandmother came out alive also, but scarcely able to breathe. Redcap, however, quickly fetched great stones with which they filled the wolf's belly. And when he awoke, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed at once. Then all 3 were delighted.
Yippee!
The huntsman drew off the wolf's skin and went home with it. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine which Redcap had brought, and perceived that Redcap thought to herself,
As long as I live, I will never by myself leave the path to run into the wood when my mother had forbidden me to do so.
It also related that once when Redcap was again taking cakes to the old grandmother, another wolf spoke to her, and tried to entice her from the path. Redcap, however, was on her guard and went straight forward on her way and told her grandmother that she had met the wolf and that he had said good morning to her, but with such a wicked look in his eyes that if they had not been on the public road, she was certain he would have eaten her up.
Well, we're gonna shut the door, and he ain't coming in here no more.
Soon afterwards, the wolf knocked and cried,
Open the door, little mother. I'm little Redcap. I'm bringing you some cakes.
but they did not speak or open the door. So the graybeard stole twice or thrice round the house, and at last jumped on the roof, intending to wait until Redcap went home in the evening, and then to steal after her and devour her in the darkness. But the grandmother saw what was in his thoughts. In front of the house was a great stone through, so she said to the child,
Take the cap. Well, no, don't take that. You got it on your head. Take the pail, Redcap. I made me some sausages yesterday, so carry the water in which I boiled them to the trough.
Redcap carried until the grate was quite full. Then the smell of sausages reached the wolf, and he sniffed and peeped down, and at last stretched out his neck so far that he could no longer keep his footing, and began to slip, and slipped down from the roof straight into the great trough, okay, thank you, and was drowned. But Redcap went joyously home, and no one ever did anything to harm her again. The end.
Do we have any guests here from Denmark? Yeah, great. Then the next one will be really good for you because it's from H.C. Andersen. This is the Emperor's New Suit, and Eileen will play the narrator, and Tabitha will be the Emperor, and Anneli will be the Swindler, and then there are some secret roles that you will find out later. Okay?
Many years ago lived an emperor who thought so much of new clothes that he spent all his money in order to obtain them. His only ambition was to be always well dressed. He did not care for his soldiers, and the theater did not amuse him. The only thing, in fact, he thought anything of was to drive out and show a new suit of clothes. He had a coat for every hour of the day, and as one would say of a king, he is in his cabinet. So one could say of him, the emperor is in his dressing room. The great city where he resided was very gay. Every day, many strangers from all parts of the globe arrived. One day, 2 swindlers came to the city. They made people believe that they were weavers and declared they could manufacture the finest cloth to be imagined. Their colors and patterns, they said, were not only exceptional and beautiful, but the clothes made of their material possessed the wonderful quality of being invisible to any man who was unfit for the office or unpardonably stupid.
That must be a wonderful cloth. If I were to be dressed in a suit made of this cloth, I should be able to find out which men in my empire were unfit for their places, and I could distinguish the clever from the stupid. Oh, I must have this cloth woven for me without delay.
And he gave a large sum of money to the swindlers in advance, that they should set to work without any loss of time. They set up 2 looms and pretended to be very hard at work, but they did nothing whatever on the looms. They asked for the finest silk and the most precious gold cloth. All they got, they did away with, and worked at the empty looms till late at night.
I should like very much to know how they are getting on with my cloth.
But he felt rather uneasy when he remembered that he who was not fit for his office could not see it. Personally, he was of opinion that he had nothing to fear, yet he thought it advisable to send somebody else first to see how matters stood. Everybody in town knew what a remarkable quality the stuff possessed, and all were anxious to see how bad or stupid their neighbors were.
Oh, I shall send my honest old minister to the weavers. He can judge best how the stuff looks, for he is intelligent, and nobody understands his office better than he.
The good old minister went to the room where the swindlers sat before the empty looms.
Oh, heavens preserve us! I can't see a thing at all.
But he did not say so. Both swindlers requested him to come near and asked him if he did not admire the exquisite pattern and beautiful colors, pointing to the empty looms. The poor old minister tried his very best, but he could not see nothing, for there was nothing to be seen.
Oh dear, can I be so stupid? I should never have thought so, and nobody must know it. Is it possible that I am not fit for my office? Oh, no, I cannot say that I was unable to see the cloth.
Now, have you got nothing to say?
Oh, it's pretty. Oh, see, it's exceedingly beautiful. Oh, golly, what a beautiful pattern. Brilliant colors. I shall tell the emperor that I like the cloth very, very much.
I'm pleased to hear that.
Swindlers described to him the colors and explained the curious pattern. The old minister listened attentively, that he might relate to the emperor what they said, and so he did. Now the swindlers asked for more money, silk and gold cloth, which they required for weaving. They kept everything for themselves, and not a thread came near the loom, but they continued, as hitherto, to work at the empty looms. Soon afterwards, the emperor sent another honest courtier to the weavers to see how they were getting on, and if the cloth was nearly finished. Like the old minister, he looked and looked, but could not see nothing, and there was nothing to be seen.
It is not a beautiful piece of cloth.
I'm not stupid. Is this therefore my good appointment for which I am not fit? It is very strange, but I must not let anyone know it.
He praised the cloth, but he did not see it, and expressed his joy at the beautiful colors and the fine pattern.
It is very excellent,
he said to the emperor. Everybody in the whole town talked about the precious cloth. At last, the emperor wished to see it himself, while it was still on the loom. With a number of courtiers, including the two who had already been there, he went to the two clever swindlers, who now worked as hard as they could, but without using any thread.
Is it not magnificent? Your Majesty must admire the colors and the pattern.
And then he pointed to the empty looms, for they imagined the others could see the cloth.
What is this? I do not see anything at all. That is terrible. Am I stupid? Am I unfit to be the emperor? That would indeed be the most dreadful thing that could happen to me. Really, your cloth has our most gracious approval.
Emperor nodding contentedly, he looked at the empty loom, for he did not like to say that he saw nothing. All his attendants who were with him looked and looked, and although they could not see anything more than the others, they said, like the emperor, "It is very beautiful," and all advised him to wear the new magnificent clothes at a great procession, which was soon to take place. "It is magnificent, beautiful, excellent," one heard them say. Everybody seemed to be delighted, and the emperor appointed the two swindlers imperial court weavers. The whole night previous to the day on which the procession was to take place, the swindlers pretended to work and burned more than 16 candles. People should see that they were busy to finish the emperor's new suit. They pretended to take the cloth from the loom and worked about in the air with big scissors and sewed the needles without thread, and said at last,
"The emperor's new suit is ready now."
The emperor and all his barons then came to the hall. The swindlers held their arms up as if they held something in their hands and said,
So these are the trousers. This is the coat. Here is the cloak. They are all as light as a cobweb, and one must feel as if one had nothing at all upon the body, but just, yada, yada, yada.
No, just kidding.
But that is just the beauty of it. Does it please you, Your Majesty, now to graciously undress that we may assist Your Majesty in putting on the new suit before the large looking glass?
Oh, the Emperor undressed, and the swindlers pretended to put the new suit upon him, one piece after another, and the Emperor looked at himself in the glass from every side.
Oh, I am ready. Does not my suit fit me marvelously?
Then he turned once more to the looking glass, that people should think he admired his garments. The chamberlains who were to carry the train stretched their hands to the ground as if they lifted up a train and pretended to hold something in their hands. They did not like people to know that they could not see anything. The Emperor marched in procession under the beautiful canopy, and all who saw him in the street and out of the windows exclaimed, "Indeed, the Emperor's new suit is incomparable. What a long train he has, how well it fits him." Nobody wished to let others know. He saw nothing. For then he would have been unfit for his office or too stupid. Never emperor's clothes were more admired.
But he has nothing at all. Good heavens! Listen to the voice of it. Oh.
No, I think that's the narrator. Good heavens, listen to the voice of an innocent child, said the father. I am the father now. One whispered to the other what the child had said, but he has nothing on at all, cried at last the whole people. They made a deep impression upon the emperor, for it seemed to him that they were right, but he thought to himself,
Now I must bear up to the end.
and the chamberlains walked with still greater dignity, as if they carried the train, which did not exist. That is the end, my friends.
Now I know there must be some Sherlock Holmes fans in the audience. Great.
Just fine.
The next one is the Count of Baskerville. And Tabitha will be playing Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, thank you.
And Anneli will be Watson. And Eileen will be Dr. Wilson.
Oh, all right.
Would you break?
Water break.
So, I guess I'm gonna start off.
Yes.
Oh, dear. Bear with me, please. So, okay. I would ask you to do this in Spitfire's voice. Is that okay with you guys?
Let's see how it goes.
I confess, at these words, a shudder passed through me. There was a thrill in the doctor's voice which showed, what?
Showed? It was showed. Ah, so correct.
Believe in yourself. Which showed he was himself, deeply moved by that which he told us. Holmes leaned forward in his excitement, and his eyes had that hard, dry glare which shot from them when he was keenly interested.
You saw this,
As clearly as I can see you.
and you said nothing.
What was the use?
How is it that no one else saw it?
The marks were some 20 yards from the body, and no one gave them a thought. I I don't suppose I should have done so had I not known this legend.
There are many sheepdogs on this moor.
No doubt that this was no sheepdog.
You say it was large.
Enormous.
But it had not approached the body.
No.
What sort of night was it?
Damp and raw.
But not actually raining.
No.
What was the alley like?
There are 2 lines of old yew hedge, 12 feet high and impenetrable. The walk in the center is about 8 feet across.
Is there anything between the hedges and the wall?
Oh, yes! There is a strip of grass about 6 feet broad on either side.
I understand that the yew hedge is penetrated at one point by a gate.
Yes, the wicket gate which leads on the moor.
Is there any other opening? So, that to reach the yew alley, one either has to come down it from the house, or else enter it by the moor gate.
There is an exit through a summer house at the far end.
Has Sir Charles reached this?
No, he lay about 50 yards from it.
Now tell me, Dr. Mortimer, and this is important, the marks which you saw were on the path and not the grass?
No marks could show on the grass.
Were they on the same side of the path as the moor gate?
Yes, they were on the edge of the path on the same side as the moor gate.
You interest me exceedingly. Another point. Was the wicket gate closed?
Closed and padlocked.
How high was it?
About 4 feet high.
Then anyone could have gotten over it.
Yes.
And what marks did you see on the wicket gate?
None in particular.
Good heavens. Did no one examine?
Yes, I examined them myself.
And found nothing?
It was all very confusing. Sir Charles had evidently stood there for 5 or 10 minutes.
How do you know that?
Because the ash had twice dropped from his cigar.
Excellent! This is a colleague, Watson, after our own heart. But the marks.
He had left his own marks all over the small patch of gravel. I could discern no others.
Sherlock Holmes struck his hand against his knee with an impatient gesture.
If only I had been there. It is evidently a case of extraordinary interest, and one which presented immense opportunities to the scientific expert. That gravel page upon which I might have read so much has long ere been smudged by the rain and defaced by the clogs of curious peasants. Oh, Dr. Mortimer, Dr. Mortimer, to think that you should have not have called me in. You indeed have much to answer for.
Oh, I could not call you in, Mr. Holmes, without disclosing these facts to the world, and I have already given my reasons for not wishing to do so. Besides...
Why do you hesitate?
There is a realm in which most acute and most experienced of detectives is helpless.
You mean this is a thing of the supernatural?
I did not positively say so.
But you evidently think it.
Since the tragedy, Mr. Holmes, there have come to my ears several incidents which are hard to reconcile with the settled order of nature.
For example?
I find that before the terrible event occurred, several people had seen a creature upon the moor which corresponds with the Baskerville demon, and which could not possibly be any animal known to science. I should know. I'm Fluttershy. There was a huge creature, luminous, ghastly, and spectral. I have cross-examined these men. One of them a hard-headed countryman, one a farrier, and one a moorland farmer, called Big Macintosh. All tell the same story of this dreadful apparition, exactly corresponding to the hellhound of the legend. I assume that there is a reign of terror in the district, and that is a hardy man who crossed the moor at night.
And you, a trained man of science, believe it to be supernatural?
I do not know what to believe.
I have hitherto confined my investigations to this world. In a modest way, I have combated evil. But to take on the father of evil himself would perhaps be too ambitious a task. Yet you must admit that the footmark is material.
The original hound was material enough to tuck a man's throat out. Oh my, and yet he was diabolical as well.
I see that you have quite gone over to the supernaturalists. But how, Dr. Mortimer, tell me this. If you hold these views, why have you come to consult me at all? You tell me in the same breath that it is useless to investigate Sir Charles's death, and yet you desire me to do so.
I did not say that I desired you to do it.
Ah, then how can I assist you?
By advising me as to what I should do with Sir Henry Baskerville, who arrived at Waterloo Station in exactly 1 hour and a quarter.
He being the heir?
Yes. On the death of Sir Charles, we inquired for this young gentleman and found that he had been farming in Canada. Oh, Canada. The accounts which have reached us, he is an excellent fellow in every way. I speak now as a medical man, but as a trustee and executor of Sir Charles' will.
There is no other claimant, I presume?
None. The only other kinsman who we have able to trace was Roger Baskerville, the youngest of 3 brothers, of whom poor Sir Charles was the elder. The second brother, who died young, is the father of this lad Henry. The third, Roger, was the black sheep of the family. He came of the old Baskerville.
For some reason I was reading.
Masterful Baskerville.
So you're saying he came of the old Masterful Baskerville strain? The Baskerville strain?
Masterful Baskerville.
Masterful Baskerville. A basket full of Masterful Baskerville.
And was very image. They tell me of the family picture of old Hugo. He made England too hot to hold him, fled to Central America, and died there in 1876 of yellow fever. I have yellow fever, because I know. Henry is the last of Baskervilles. In 1 hour and 5 minutes, I met him at Waterloo Station. I have had a wire that he arrived at Southampton this morning. Now, Mr. Holmes, what would you advise me to do with him?
The last master of the Baskervilles? Why should he not go to the home of his fathers?
It seems natural, does it not? And yet consider that every Baskerville who goes there meets with an evil face. I feel sure that if Sir Charles could have spoken with me before his death, he would have warned me against Brandis, the last of the old race, and the heir to great wealth, to that deadly place. I can't read anymore. And yet it cannot be denied that the prosperity of the whole poor, bleak countryside depends upon his presence. All the good work which has been done by Sir Charles, which crashed to the ground. There is no tenant of the hall. I feel less I should be swayed too much by my own obvious interest in the matter. And that is why I bring the case before you and ask for your advice.
Holmes considered it for a little while.
So, put into plain words, the matter is this. In your opinion, there is a diabolical agency which makes Dartmoor an unsafe abode for a Baskerville. Is that your opinion?
At least, I might go to the length of saying that there is some evidence that this may be so.
Exactly. But surely, if your supernatural theory is... Thank you, Sweden. I think I just spoke Swedish.
You did.
Exactly. But surely if your supernatural theory be correct, it could be it could work the young man evil in London as easily as in Devonshire. That's in English? Okay, be too inconceivable a thing. Wow.
You put the matter more flippantly, Mr. Holmes, but you would probably do if you were brought into personal contact with these things. Your advice then, as I understand it, is that
The young man will be as safe in Devonshire as in London? Yes.
Oh, you're correct. He comes in 15 minutes. What would you recommend?
I recommend, sir, that you take a cab, haul off your spaniel who is scratching at my front door, and proceed to Waterloo to meet Sir Henry Baskerville, last master of the Baskervilles.
And then?
And then you will say nothing to him. Nothing at all, until I have made my mind up about the matter.
Oh my, how long will it take you to make up your mind?
24 hours! At 10 o'clock in the morning, Dr. Mortimer, I would be obliged if you would call upon me here. And it will be of help to me in my plans for the future if you will bring Sir Henry Baskerville, master of the Baskervilles, with you.
I will do so, Mr. Holmes.
He scribbled the appointment on his shirt cuff and hurried off in a strange, peering, absent-minded fashion. Holmes stopped him at the head of the stair.
One more question, Dr. Mortimer. You say that before Sir Charles Baskerville's death, several people saw this apparition upon the moor.
3 people did.
Did they see it after?
I have not heard of any.
Thank you, and good morning.
Holmes returned to the seat with a quiet look of inward satisfaction, which meant he had a congenial task before him.
Going out, Watson?
Unless I can help you.
No, my dear fellow. It is at the hour of action that I will turn to you for aid. But this is splendid. Really unique from some points of view. When you pass Bradley's, would you ask him to send up a pound of his strongest shag tobacco? Thank you. It would be as well if you could make it convenient not to return before this evening. Then I should be very glad to compare impressions as to this most interesting problem which has been submitted to us this morning.
I know that seclusion and solitude were very necessary for you, for my friend. I therefore spent the day at my club and did not return to turning the page until Baker Street, until evening. It was nearly 9 o'clock when I found myself in the seating room once more. My first impression, as I opened the door, was that a fire, a spitfire, had broken out. For the room was so filled with smoke. It was very filled with smoke. Through the haze, I had a vague vision of Holmes in his dressing gown, coiled up in an armchair, with his black clay pipe between his lips. Several rolls of paper lay around him.
Caught cold, Watson?
No, it's the poisonous atmosphere.
I suppose it's pretty thick now that you mention it.
Thick? It's intolerable.
Open the window then!
My dear Holmes.
You've been at the club all day, I perceive. Am I right?
Certainly, but how? He laughed at my bewildered expression.
There's a delightful freshness for factors by thing to burn.
I feel like that's going to sound.
Sorry.
So,
There's a delightful There's a delightful freshness about you, Watson, which makes it a pleasure to exercise any small powers which I possess at your expense. The gentleman doth booger. This is going really well. A gentleman goes forth on a showery and miry day. He returns immaculate in the evening with the gloss still on his hat and his boots. He's been a fixture, therefore, all day. He is not a man with intimate friends. Where, then, could he have been? Is it not obvious?
Well, it is rather obvious.
The world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes. Where do you think that I've been? A fixture also? On the contrary, I have been to Devonshire. In spirit. Exactly. My body has remained in this armchair and has, I regret to observe, consumed in my absence 2 large coffee pots and an incredible amount of tobacco. After you left, I sent down to Stamford's for the ordnance map of this portion of the moor, and my spirit has hovered over it all day. I flatter myself that I could find my way about.
A large-scale map, I presume.
Very large.
He unrolled one section and held it over his knee.
Here you have the particular district that concerns us. That is Baskerville Hall in the middle.
With a wood around it?
Exactly. I fancy the yew alley, though not marked under the name, must stretch along this line with the moor as you perceive it upon the right of it. This clump of buildings here is the hamlet of Grimpen, where our friend Dr. Mortimer has his headquarters. Within a radius of 5 miles, there are, as you see, only a very few scattered dwellings. Here is Hafter Hall, which was mentioned in the narrative. There is a house indicated here, which may be the residence of the naturalist Stapleton, if I remember right was his name. There are 2 moorland farmhouses, High Tor and Foulmire. And then 14 miles away, the great convict prison of Princetown. Between and around these scattered points extends the desolate, lifeless moor. This then is the stage upon which tragedy has been played and upon which we may yet help it to play again.
It must be a wild place.
Yes, setting is a worthy one. If the devil did desire to have a hand in the affairs of men,
Then you are yourself inclining to the supernatural explanation.
the devil's agents may be of flesh and blood, may they not? There are 2 questions waiting for us at the outset. The one is whether any crime has been committed at all. The second is, what is the crime and how was it committed? Of course, if Dr. Mortimer's surmise should be correct, then we are dealing with forces outside the ordinary laws of nature. There is an end to our investigation. But we are bound to exhaust all other hypotheses before falling back on this one. I think we'll shut that window again, if you don't mind. It is a singular thing, but I find that the concentrated atmosphere helps a concentration of thought. I have not pushed it to the length of getting into a box to think, but that is the logical outcome of my convictions. Have you turned the case over in your mind?
Yes, I have thought a good deal of it in the course of the day.
And what do you make of it?
It is very bewildering.
It certainly has a character of its own. There are points of distinction about it. That change in the footprints, for example. What do you make of them?
Mortimer said that the man had walked on tiptoes down the portion of the alley.
He only repeated what some fool had said at the inquest. Why should a man walk on tiptoe down the alley?
What then?
He was running, Watson. Desperately running for his life, running until he burst his heart, until he fell dead upon his face.
Running from what?
There lies our problem. There are no indications that the man was crazed with fear before he began to run.
How can you say that?
I am presuming that the cause of his fears came to him from across the moors. If that were so, and it seems most probable, only a man who had lost his wits would have run from the house instead of towards it. If the gypsy's evidence may be taken as true, he ran with cries of help in the direction where help was least likely to be. Then again, who was he waiting for that night, and why was he waiting for him in the yew alley rather than in his own house?
You think that he was waiting for someone?
The man was elderly and infirm. We can understand his taking an evening stroll, but the ground was damp and the night inclement. Is it natural that he should stand for 5 or 10 minutes, as Dr. Mortimer, with more practical sense than I should have given him credit for, deduced from cigar ash?
But he went out every evening.
I think it unlikely that he waited at the moor gate every evening. Oh, look, there's a hound now. On the contrary, the evidence is that he avoided the moor. That night he waited there. It was the night before he made his departure for London. The thing takes shape, Watson. It becomes coherent. Might I ask you to hand me my violin, and we will postpone any further thought upon this business until we have had the advantage of meeting Dr. Mortimer and Sir Henry Baskerville, Master of the Baskervilles, in the morning.
Before anyone leaves, is Kai Wallin in this room? Yes. Congratulations, come and pick your wife drawing competition prize. Guest of guests of honor and EileMonty for this amazing planning. And did you have fun? So, yes, the con is now closing. So I advise everybody to head to the main doors. And I hope, and it is. Yeah. But the day is not over yet. I hope to see everybody at the Nosturi at our evening party. Woo!